This is Shawn Villalpando, and I'm a Bio 165 instructor, and what I'm going to do in this video is go over the connective tissues lab. So if I pull up the handout for connective tissues, you can see what we've got right here, and I'm just going to go down the list and take a look at some slides. So let's start with our adipose tissues. Here I have adipose tissue, and this is at 40x. And you can see this is a very loose type of connective tissue. And if we go up a little bit in power to 100, you can start to see a little bit more clearly here. And these right here are the adipocytes. And you can see they look sort of like floor tiles. And so here would be an individual adipocyte right here. The clear space in the center, this is the fat vacuole, and it contains cytoplasm and a fat droplet also. And if you look at the outline of these cells, you can see some dark structures here. These dark structures are the nuclei of the adipocyte, and as this fat vacuole fills up with fluid, the nucleus will get pretty much pushed to the outside of the cell, and so that's why all these nuclei are right there pressed up against the cell membrane. Next we have blood vessels in this tissue, and you can see I've got a blood vessel right here. This is a transverse cross-section of a blood vessel. So let me go up again in power and see if we can get a better look at this thing. So here we are, you can see the outline of the blood vessel right here, and you can see some remnants of blood that was inside. And so this is our adipose tissue. Next, we'll move on to bone connective tissue. And so we've got a few different structures with bone tissue that we'll look at. So here is our bone tissue, and this is starting at 40x. And you can see right away in this tissue that we've got these individual units. And if you look, you can see that they're circular in shape. So here's one, here's one, here's one here. Here's one up here, and these circular units have a dark structure in the center. Well, these are the osteons. The osteons are the functional units of bone. And the dark structure in the center, that is our central canal. So let me move up in power to 100x, and we can see this a little bit better. I'm also going to recenter on an individual osteon. So again, this is our osteon right here. In the center, we have our central canal, and then you can see these dark little lines that go around the central canal. They're forming little rings going around the central canal. These are the osteocytes. And remember, these live in little spaces in the bony matrix, and those spaces are called lacuna. And so these dark structures here are the osteocytes in their little lacuna. And if you notice, you can see kind of a concentric rings of these osteocytes. And so the distance between two rings, that is what we call a lamella, or a layer. And then our final structure for bone is the canaliculi. So let me go up again in power. Here I am at 400x. And you can see these very faint lines that are radiating out from the central canal. There's one there, there's one there. These little tiny, very faint lines, these are the canaliculi. And of course, this is where blood passes through the bony matrix from the central canal to supply each osteocyte. Next, I want to take a look at some areolar connective tissues, and we've got a few different structures to learn with this tissue. So here I am at 40x, and first of all we need to find the areolar tissue on this slide. And so this down here, it looks kind of like tissue paper. This is the areolar tissue that we want to look at on this slide. So let me go up in power. Here I am at 100, and you can see right off the bat there's a lot of stuff going on with this tissue type. And so I'm going to have to go up again in power to be able to see very much. So here we go up to 400x. Here we are at 400x, and if I tweak my fine adjustment back and forth, you can see how certain structures come into focus and go out of focus. And so if we take a look right here, we can see that, first of all, these circular structures in here, for our purposes on this lab, we're going to call these fibroblasts. Now, in reality, they might be any number of fibroblasts, macrophage, microphage, mast cell, but we're not going to worry too much about that. Next, we have our thick collagen fibers. And the thick collagen fibers, remember, these are the fibers that are unbranching, they're not wavy, and they're a little bit thicker than the elastic fibers. So here's a collagen fiber right here. These are our thick fibers. The thinner fibers, like right here, these are the elastic fibers. And so again, if I tweak my fine adjustment back and forth, I can see some thinner fibers and thicker fibers popping out. And then finally, for this tissue, we've got the matrix. And the matrix of areolar connective tissue is just basically all this pink or purplish material in here that the cells and the fibers are held within. Next, we're going to take a look at hyaline cartilage tissue, and we've only got a couple of structures to learn on this tissue. So if you take a look at the hyaline cartilage slide, here we are at 40x, and you can see there's a lot of stuff going on with this tissue slide. And so we need to find the cartilage first on the slide. And this thick dark purple layer right here, this is our cartilage part of the slide. And so we are going to center and zoom in on that right there. So here we are going up to 100x, and you can really start to see this cartilage tissue popping out now at 100x. And so the only structures we're going to learn are the chondrocytes in their lacuna and the matrix. So let me just go up again to 400 and see if this looks any better. Okay, so here is our hyaline cartilage. And you can see these open spaces here are the lacuna. Again, the lacuna is a space in the solid matrix of supportive connective tissues. And in the case of hyaline cartilage, the matrix is made up of that gel-like, slippery protein matrix of proteoglycans. And so you can see this is kind of a shriveled up chondrocyte, and it's living in its lacuna right here. This purple material, this is the matrix in our hyaline connective tissue. Next, we'll take a look at blood, which is an example of a fluid connective tissue. And we've got several structures to learn with our blood. So at 40x, the blood doesn't really look very detailed. And so we need to move up in magnification pretty quickly. So here we are at 100x. And you can start to make out a few things. Now, at this magnification, you can see that all these very symmetrical, very lightly staining cells, these are our erythrocytes. These are the red blood cells, erythrocytes. The dark staining ones, these are the leukocytes of this blood smear. Now let's go up in power again, up to 400. Now you can really start to see some detail on these red blood cells. And all we're going to learn for the erythrocytes is the cell membrane, and obviously the outline of these individual erythrocytes, that is the cell membrane of those cells. Now if you look at the darkly staining cells, these are the leukocytes. These are the white blood cells. And I like to remember these because these are more symmetrical and darkly staining. Our other structure in the blood smear is going to be platelets. Platelets are darkly staining, but they're asymmetrical, and so you can see a platelet right there. Pretty easy to compare to a leukocyte, which is much more symmetrical. There's a leukocyte right there. Our final tissue for the connective tissues lab is going to be dense fibrous connective tissue, and you might also see this called dense regular connective tissue. And so we're going to look at a couple of different structures for this tissue type. Now at 40x you can start to see some detail here, but we're going to go up to 100x. And now you can really see some detail. All we're going to learn for this connective tissue type is collagen bundles, and you can see these dark little strands here. These are the bundles of collagen fibers. And remember, dense fibrous or dense regular connective tissue, the collagen fibers are densely packed together and they're very parallel with each other and tightly packed. That means they're very strong in one direction. They have really strong tensile strength. So these little white spaces, these are just open spaces that separate collagen bundles. So there's a collagen bundle right there. Let me go up to 400x here, and you can start to see some nuclei of the fibroblasts that are associated with these collagen fibers. And you can see, again, nuclei are typically darkly staining, and you can see right here, these are the nuclei of the fibroblasts that are associated with these collagen bundles. And so that's it for the connective tissues review for Bio 165. I hope this has helped you.